What's up, guys? Hans Johnson here. We're gonna do another video today. I hope you're having an amazing day. I need to get this video set up a little bit better. Anyway, I want to welcome you. We've done a few of these videos now over the last few weeks, and this will actually be a part 5 in a series. Hopefully you've had a chance to check out some of the prior videos that we've done that we're basically now calling the Corona Crisis Survival Guide. I do hope that you and your family are doing well, that you're in good health, and that you are not only surviving through this season of life that we're in right now, but thriving. And that's the point of these videos. If you've watched the prior videos, there's an intensity about them, and part of that's my personality. I do get pretty wound up and intense and pretty passionate. And the lighting's a little bit funky here today. I would just say that I appreciate your grace and kindness and who you are for letting me be me when I get ranting and raving and talking about something that I'm either really passionate about or have experience in or have a strong viewpoint on. Some of these ideas and concepts that we're talking about in True Wealth Formula and all of the conversations we've had have been basically developed and are acquired through the School of Hard Knocks, through going through fire and of life, as I'm sure you have as well. And for those of you that haven't watched one of the videos, or this may be your first one, my background: I grew up on the streets in Hawaii. Started my first business at 8 years old. Found out real early that if I didn't sell something, I didn't eat. I never really liked sales. I was a pretty shy kid and mostly an introvert personality on that, if you understand the spectrum, of personality. And but I learned very early on that it was to work was a good thing, and to overcome fears and obstacles and, to push through. And a lot of people will say, hey, an 8-year-old kid shouldn't be, doing that. That's crazy. And I'm not going to disagree with that, because that's a very valid point of view for sure. But one of the things that we do in life is we don't always get to choose our circumstances. Life is volatile. There's never been such thing as life on Earth being something that is stable, has 100% security, has guaranteed outcomes, doesn't have uncertainty, and doesn't have chaos and trauma and wild, crazy things that happen. And so that's just life, welcome to the world that we live in. This is one of those things that our mind has a difficult time with, and I'm no different than you are. If we're honest with ourselves, we don't like that. We don't like the fact that there are things in this world we don't control, or things in this world that are not. Sometimes there's problems that there's no solution to it, and it drives me crazy. I can't stand it. Even today, absolutely drives me crazy. So, but that's life. We have to learn to accept it. And so I didn't get to choose all of my circumstances growing up. And, thank God I was in Hawaii. I had a single mom that was doing the best that she could. And, had more fathers or dads or men in and out of my life, father figures or dads in and out of my life than I could count. So that naturally has an impact on a kid growing up, and as well as carries through into adulthood. But I had a lot to be thankful for, man. I was in Hawaii. I had a mom that was smart enough to give me something to do and encourage me to get out there and pick the flowers and the leis. And I started, like I said, at eight years old. Come home from school. We used to go to school barefoot. Come home from school, and I was a white kid growing up in a very mixed interracial. And now today, it's like to talk about that stuff is like everything's so political correct. Back then, I was a minority in a not an easy place to grow up, I definitely today, and probably since I was a kid, sort of had a demeanor and a personality or just facial expression that if I'm not smiling, I look like I'm angry, and I don't look like a very nice guy. So growing up wasn't the easiest thing. It was a challenge, but that's life. Life throws curveballs at us, and sometimes things come out of left field, and we have to learn to adapt. We have to learn to basically, as quickly as possible, deal with reality and try to find the positive, and then work from where we're at. And I think that in this corona crisis situation that's going on, that the world is in right now, I think that's a critical attitude that we have to have. Going back to what I was saying earlier, some people will look at the videos that I've done and they'll say, hey, you're being too negative or too harsh or too this or too that. And I would come back and I would simply say that I would ask the question that how do you expect to actually solve a problem or improve a situation if you are not willing to be honest about the reality of it, right? And unfortunately, that's the state of the world that we're in today. We are in a state of the world, and certainly in the West, and certainly here in the United States, we much rather have someone tell us what we want to hear and give us the positive and spin it, make us feel good, and as a result of that, as a result of us and our psychology and where we are in the cycle of prosperity, and if you understand that, maybe I'll do a video on that at some point. We're releasing the True Wealth Formula book on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, the 21st, and I have some announcements to make on that at the end. Hopefully this video is going to be shorter this time here today. There's a cycle of human nature and a cycle of prosperity, and it has repeated itself throughout time, and it's never not happened. The only difference is the timeline and the duration, but it's like a wheel, and it spins. And in some cases it can spin faster, in other cases, and so you can have cycles within cycles within cycles. And it's recorded all throughout biblical literature. It's recorded throughout other historical literature. And frankly, as our true Father and the Creator told us, that even if there was no literature, no nothing there, that the world itself and our very conscience itself would be a witness to us, to tell us what the way that things are and what is the right path versus the wrong path. But because we have human nature, and this is immutable, it's never going to change. It is a reality, and the better we get at acknowledging that reality and learning about it and learning how to deal with it, the better we're going to manage this life. The better, and one of the reasons for me why I love it, and I love it because I hate it. I can't stand it because I can't do. There's not a whole lot I can do about it. But on the other side, it's fascinating to me, the human nature, those parts of us that are extremely primal. Okay, we're talking about, I'll often say that fear is the most dominant emotion of the human species. Period. End of story. And and you can say no, greed is, or no, this is, or no, love's the most powerful emotion. I didn't say the most powerful. I said the most dominant. The most dominant emotion is fear, 100%. Okay, and so the sooner we are able to acknowledge reality and truth to the best that we can, and accept it. Then we can start to make change. Then we can start to do something about it. And certainly the human nature element is without question the biggest impact to building wealth, to building financial security, stability, freedom. Okay? There's a lot of people right now that are hurting out there, a lot. And we'll talk about that a little bit in the prior videos. I talked about that as well. But I will propose to you in this video, and in this video what I want to do is I want to talk about something, well, I'll explain it here in a little bit, but I want to propose to you that if you are having money problems right now today, and if you are struggling, and or even the people that you know, and this is a really mean thing to say. I mean, it's like a really mean, nasty thing to say, but it has to be said. You know, if you're getting on a, if you're going into a war, what you don't want and what you don't need is a guy beside you that's basically whispering in your ear, "Hey man, it's gonna be okay. You know, it's gonna be all right. You got this. You'll be all right, man. It's all good. Just think positive thoughts." Okay? I'm sorry. No. What you need in that environment and in that situation is some crazy bastard screaming in your ear, telling you, "Get off your ass, you dumb, give me 50. Like you need somebody literally knocking the crap out of you and shaping you up. Right? That's how you survive battles. That's how you survive wars. You do not survive battles and wars by political correctness, by feel-good policies, okay, and by massaging earballs, okay, and tickling your innards, okay. That's not how it works, right? And so, who I'm talking to in these videos is I'm talking to people that want something that works and want an effective, real solution, okay? And B, are willing to swallow the tough medicine to get there, okay? So we can either basically kid ourselves, right? And we can, and going back to what I was saying about human nature and the cycle of prosperity that we're in right now, this is why our media, our corporate media, our governments, right? This is why this is why you see the messaging what it is. And I'm not going to repeat and beat a dead horse because we already have 4 other videos. You can hear, my take on that. I started following this situation back in December, talking about the coronavirus, COVID-19. There's all kinds of crazy information out there, okay? If you follow political hacks and political talking heads, you're probably not getting the most accurate information. And all you have to do to prove this to yourself is just look at their story. Their story literally changes every single week, if not every day. It's constantly something new and it's constantly evolving. So they're talking about stuff right now that those of us that are tied into the financial side of things and if you understand human nature and patterns and you know where to look, you can pick up on this kind of stuff. They're talking about stuff right now that we've known for, months, okay? So one of the things I mentioned in the prior videos is that our system, I'll say this today, we don't get the government we want, we get the government we deserve. And the government we get, or the system we get, is a reflection of who we are. And we are now at the tip of the prosperity cycle. We are peak soft, okay? Peak weak and peak soft, mentally, physically, across the board, right? So they're having to balance this messaging between managing panic, managing the actual health situation, the economy, and the global financial system. Those are the 4 things that are going on. So. And they're constantly rotating, and right now they're rotating to the economy. That's what's going on. Hey, open this thing back up. Open them, the reopening of America, like it's a it's a movie release or something like that. Like, what is this? So what I want to talk about in this video, okay, is, and I'm just going to go back to this statement. If you are suffering right now, or you're not where you want to be financially, or you're going through hard times, okay, or you are whatever, okay? I'm telling you right now, it is not because of the coronavirus, okay? And it's not because of a government shutdown, right? And this is the point that I make, and I've made it in the other videos. You cannot have, it is absolutely impossible, and this is what I was saying earlier, this is a mean, terrible thing to say, okay? But you cannot have the strongest, okay, so you can't have the strongest economy in 50 years and the longest running bull market in history just a month and a half ago, okay? So just in a month and a half ago, you had the strongest economy in 50 years, the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years, the longest running bull market, you know, in history, okay, as far as timeline and that sort of thing. And 6 weeks later, everybody's in pain and hurting, okay? This is not because of this incident that's going on. This is because of your personal financial system. And that's what I want to talk about today. And again, this is extremely offensive. I consider myself an equal opportunity offender, okay? And one thing I learned a long time ago, and this has been consistent in my life, and it sucks. I hate hearing stuff that isn't comfortable, that hurts, that's not fun to hear. But there is no such thing as learning and growth without agitation and disruption and pain, right? You cannot, there is no thing that you will learn and hear and we have a book coming out. I'm excited about that. I worked my butt off for years for it. But you're not going to learn something. You're not going to just get the easy ticket, you know? We learn and we internalize based off of the price, okay? And so there's no getting around that, okay? So we pay a price. We get to pay a price. And so the only question is when do you want to pay the price? You know, do you want to continue to be on the tail end of this system that keeps cycling? All markets boom and bust. Do you want to keep being on the tail end where you're the victim and you're having to go to get a government handout and where you're having to beg at a bank to give you your $1,200, check or whatever it is, right? Or do you want to have a different life? Do you want to make a different life, right? Do you believe that there is a way to actually have a different life, okay? Starting today, starting right now. Or do you think that, no, I can't do this right now. This is bad timing, Hans. Don't you understand? You're such an insensitive dick. How can you be talking about this right now while people are suffering and things are terrible and the world is, in just massive chaos and it's just how can you're such a jerk, Well, like I said, if you're dropped into a war zone, you have two choices. You got the guy next to you that's going to give you warm fuzzies and give you freaking wet willies in your ear, and tickle your, or you got the guy that's screaming at you saying, get off your ass, pick yourself up and run. Let's do this thing. That's the choice. And I'm not trying to say that I'm that guy, but I'm definitely not the guy that's going to whisper in your ear and give you warm fuzzies, right? So what I want to do is I want to share with you some concepts and a system that has worked for me and my family, my wife, and our clients, right? And, So before I go, number one, if you're in a situation where you do need income skills and business skills and sales skills, I would recommend that you go to DannyJohnson.com. This is a company that my wife and I co-founded many years ago, and it has helped tens of thousands of people grow businesses, survive tough economic times, on and on and on. If you're in a position to help because you have prospered and you have been blessed, then we have a nonprofit foundation called King's Ransom Foundation, and you can find that at kingsransom.org. And now's a good time to give, right? Because if we give, we receive, and giving isn't just money; it's a lot of different things. But it's a spiritual concept. So what I want to talk about today in this video is I want to talk about something. Okay, so the title is How to Build a Fortress Balance Sheet. But in reality, this is like the most boring topic there is to talk about, right? And I'll do my best today to make it somewhat interesting and exciting. By the way, truewealthformula.com is my website. And I'm assuming that if you're watching this, you've already subscribed to the site or at least opted in and gotten our free Money Quadrant report. And we do have an implementation program that teaches you how to actually implement this stuff and how to get these results in your financial life, how to do your financial, how to get your financial crap together. Okay. And the case that I'm making right now, and again, I'm making a little bit of an assumption that you've watched the prior videos, but what I am saying about this current situation that we're in is that it is going to be much worse and much longer than you've been told. Okay, and you can go back and you can watch prior videos and you can talk to our clients and they will tell you that we first started. I first started giving them warnings in January and then in February, and frankly, with close clients all the way back going into 2018, right? And strategy and how to protect themselves and how to protect their balance sheets. So for some of you, this is going to sound a little bit technical, and I'm going to try to make it not technical. I am not somebody that has a formal background or education in finance. I had to learn this stuff the hard way, and what I'm going to share with you is again through learning and trial and error. But I'm telling you right now, and I will tell you this, that this thing right here, this concept as a basic foundational understanding is unequivocally is what you need to understand, and it forms the foundation of the changes that you need to make in your life starting today. Okay, and the environment is a difficult environment right now. We're being pressed on, we're being challenged, we're being squeezed, and I can tell you 1,000% that for those that are ready to make a change and ready to get on a better path, that this will be the biggest blessing in your life. Okay, I'm not saying it's not going to be hard. I'm not saying it's not going to be, big challenges and stuff like that, but it will be the biggest blessing. And I'm telling you that we're at the front end of this, not the tail end of this. Okay, there is much more to come, right? The economic data, I mean, depending on how it's measured, you're now starting to see these quote experts, these media people now saying, oh, we're already in the worst recession since the 1930s. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. What did we tell you a month and a half ago, 2 months ago? What did we tell our clients? No, this is a 100-year cycle event that's going on right now. And I'm not just talking about this virus, right? Everybody now is just like, hey, screw this. The numbers didn't turn out the way you said they were. We're gonna stop this social distancing, but then other places are now putting laws on you can't go out in public without a mask, and the amount of craziness surrounding this situation is nutso land, right? And there should be certain things in a country where politics is just off limits, and this is one of them. But unfortunately, that's not the world we live in. So the case that I've made in the prior videos is that no one's going to, and this is a core Chua formula concept, nobody's going to do for you what you are not willing to do for yourself. So what does that mean? That means we have to take radical personal responsibility. We can't sit here and think that some Calvary is going to come and rescue us and save the day. Some government organization is going, just look at the WHO, look at the CDC, look at these different experts and authority figures. Look at their track record of providing accurate and consistent information. They can't get their story straight. And if you've been following this, and I don't care what news organization it is, I don't care what side of the political fence you sit on, okay? There has been absolutely zero consistency, right? And this is a core argument that I make repeatedly over and over and over, right? And this gets to the crux of TWF as a money management and as a life management and as a thinking management system. If we base our life based off of information, and we live in a world today where it's massive disinformation overload, okay? It's a clusterfest of incompetence and information overload by too many experts to count. Right? Line up 10 experts, okay? Line up 10 accountants, 10 CPAs, 10 attorneys, 10 financial experts, 10 economists, 10 politicians, 10 talking heads on the news, 10 of your favorite radio talk show hosts, right? 10 of your favorite F-book celebrities or whatever you want to do, and try to get a consistency anywhere in information, in data, in an opinion. You're not. You're never going to get consistency, and your quote experts are going to change their story constantly. They're going to make a prediction, and they're going to make another prediction, and they're going to make another one and another one, and they know you don't have the mental capacity to track that pattern and that information across a timeline And later on, they can now come and say, well, back when I said this. Yeah, but what about all the other things you said that didn't happen? Okay, so this is you have to understand, this is a magician show. This is a freaking an optical illusion in your brain, okay, designed to keep you hooked and dependent on a system, dependent on a global debt slave system, okay, and dependent on building the debt pyramid, okay? We live in a global debt-based economy. It is dependent on global debt slaves, right? So TWF and these videos is about extracting your ass from that system permanently, right? And there is no extracting ourselves from that system until we get real about what it is, right? And about the false promises and about the absolute level of complete bullcrap, right? And the inconsistency in data and information. So now you're in a situation where you're dependent on, in your family, you think about this, okay? In your family right now, you're dependent, your health, and now your money, your business activity, your employment, everything is dependent on some freaking yahoo up on a TV screen who's talking about some message, and they can't keep their freaking story straight. Now, I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on, and if you think, oh, Trump is this, or that person's that, or da-da-da-da-da, I don't care what side of the spectrum you're on. Nobody is going to do for you what you are not willing to do for yourself. There is no cavalry coming in to save you. Oh, but Hans, the Federal Reserve is putting stimulus out. Cool, man. Go get your $1,200 check. Can the quote government or the Fed, do you think they can underwrite the entire global economy? Think about it. Just think about it logically. Okay? They couldn't even help people that were the victims of Hurricane Katrina. For those of you that remember that situation. Right? Okay? So we're living in a crazy time right now. We are living in the age of the death of trust, and it is accelerating, and it has severe consequences. We are at the very front end of this, folks. We're at the very front end of this. And the only question is, and I've said this on the other videos, the only question is, it's not on getting the right information or the accurate information. It's not on figuring out where did this virus come from and who did it and whatever, and who's on this board and who's screwing this and what conspiracy is this and what medication works for that and what of that. It's not on that, ain't that, because that story's going to change constantly. Go back to my other videos on risk management and the concept and the philosophy of risk management. How do you be right even when you're wrong? We're in the age of death of trust. We can't trust the information because, number one, you can't validate or verify it. Number two, it's a business model. And the business model is clickbait. And it's all hyper politicized. And you and I, like to have our ears tickled. We don't like facts. We don't like reality. We want our ears tickled, and we want someone to take care of us. If you're tired of that game, and if you have suffered from this situation that's going on, and if you are at a point in your life where you're saying, frick, this is it, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore, right? If you're at that point, then these videos are for you. You're the person that I've been talking to, right? If you're at that point, you're the person that should have signed up by now for our implementation program at truewealthformula.com/special offer. So now there's never been a better time than right now to get your financial house in order, right? But how are you going to do that if you're not willing to say, okay, what is going on in here is the way that my life is. My relationship with myself and money and all of this, if you have to reprogram that. Okay, so let's talk about this is the most boring but most important thing, right? We're not taught this in school, right? And I'm talking about the balance sheet. Okay, so if you're taking notes, all wealth is created from the balance sheet. Period. End of story. What is a balance sheet? A balance sheet is everything. It's your assets and your liabilities. Okay, it's everything you own plus or minus everything you owe. And whatever their difference is, you either have a quote positive net worth or you have a negative net worth. Okay, so if you look at and I know that this camera is going to get this backwards, but this is I don't have, it's Facebook. It's the Facebook app. So I apologize for that. You're going to have to just pay attention the best that you can. And we have this stuff all explained in our program and in PDF worksheets and all kinds of cool stuff. But I have to be able to know if I'm actually even in the frame or not. So, balance sheet, you have assets and you have liabilities. Okay? And so that's the first concept. All wealth is created through the balance sheet. Okay? If you own a business and you sit down with an accountant or a CPA, probably what you do is, and probably what they show you, because it's the thing that is mostly concerned with on your tax returns, is your income statement, or what you call a P&L. And that's mostly the only thing you look at, and that's what you talk about. Oh, this was our sales, this is our revenue, this is our profit, these are our expenses, what's this, what's that, and then that's it, it's done. The balance sheet is an afterthought. Okay? Let me just tell you something. In TWF will absolutely crush conventional personal finance systems, small business, accounting, thinking, and for many reasons, but one simple reason is because it is a consistent methodology and system all the way up from the very smallest level all the way up to your Fortune 500 companies methodology of how money is managed. Why do you want? You're going to listen to some guy on the radio tell you, give you these terminologies and tell you this and tell you that, and should I do an IRA this or that, or how much should I have in my quote emergency fund? And you learn this methodology and you become dependent on this expert, and then when you go and you decide to become an entrepreneur and you start a small business, you have absolutely no idea what those financials are supposed to look like, how to monitor, how to look at them, how to sit down and have a conversation with an accountant, right? Why do you have to learn something completely new? Why is it different? It's not different. It's the exact same thing. There is nobody, right? You want to get into high level stuff? It's not the P&L. And I've had fun conversations with really smart financial people. It's not the P&L. The P&L is not what creates wealth. It's the result of wealth. And it's a result of how the balance sheet is managed. So that's number one. Number two, okay? The most important thing on your balance sheet. Okay, so let me back up. Assets and liabilities. You may have never written a piece of paper out and done this, okay? You may not. You may be like, well, I have a job and I get a W-2 and I have expenses and I have rent or I have a mortgage, and I eat and we go out and we go to the movies and I have a car and I have insurance and I have medical insurance and, we get to take a vacation once in a while and, we pay our bills on time. And we have a boat in the garage because, we like to go out to the lake during the summers. And at the end of the year, I take my shoebox of receipts and stuff, and I take it down to my accountant, or I download the TurboTax app and plug it all in, and that's it. That's my life. Okay, I don't have a balance sheet, Hans. Well, yes, you do. You have a balance sheet. What I'm talking to you about is high-tier wealth management, high-level money management thinking. And you are not unable to understand this. You must learn and understand this. I let it intimidate me for years because I was a CEO, product development, marketing guy. And every single year I'd sit down with the CPA and we'd do the financials. And within 10 minutes of that dude talking, I would be like, my mind would start checking out. Right? I would literally go into a like some type of weird trance. And all it sounded like he was saying was like, right? I mean, like my brain, like I would just be like, I'm out of here. And you know, when you're an entrepreneur, you know, you're taught that you have to basically trust other people who are smarter than you, right? And you're basically, that's how it works. That's how it works, okay? What I am telling you is that if you want to change your financial future, you have to understand this, and you can understand it. And you have been lied to and robbed by the system, who has a system, by the way, that has a vested interest in continuing to keep you a debt slave, serving that system. Your financial people, your accountants, your CPAs, they make this way more complicated than it needs to be. And frankly, half of them don't understand. They understand how to put the numbers in. They don't understand how to build wealth. So, you have assets and you have liabilities, right? Think of it in your life. We all have this. You have strengths and weaknesses. You have things you're good at and things you suck at. Okay? So whether you actually have it in paper or whether you've actually ever accounted for it, or you're that person in that scenario before, you say, hey, I got my work, my job, I earn income, I put some money in my 401k, you know, we go on a vacation once a year, we have our rent or our mortgage payment and our insurance and our vehicle, and when we have this boat in the garage, and that's our, you know, I don't have you have a balance sheet. So just because you haven't ever recorded it or written it down, or because you don't understand it, doesn't mean you don't have one and that it isn't screwing your financial life up. So the only question is, are you ready to become an adult and learn this stuff? You don't have to get all crazy into accounting. We have a very simple system for you to be able to teach it to you. Okay? Or do you want to continue to be a child that is a dependent who gets to be mad and angry and the victim whenever, quote, the system or your authority figures let you down? That's the only question. I had to face that same freaking question. I was like, damn, this sucks. This is freaking lame. I hate not knowing this stuff. I hate feeling like I'm getting screwed over by somebody, or every time there's a mistake, it's somebody else's fault. I hate looking at financial statements or looking at a tax return or looking at this or looking at that and having no idea how all the dots connect. I hate seeing headlines in the news, or hit the radio on, or open the news feed on the social, whatever, media or whatever, and seeing it and having no clue how the economy works and how it functions and how this happens and how that. And I finally just was like, okay, I have to figure this out. And in my personal case, I had to learn some major lessons from mistakes. And the only difference is I got to that point where I said, you know what? And I explained this in the last video, I think it was either the last or the one before. Personally, I freaking hate making mistakes. I can't stand it. I hate it, right? And nobody likes making mistakes. I can't stand it. The problem is, without the mistakes, we can't learn. But there's a worse problem. If we don't own the mistake, then we can't learn from it, okay? It's even worse than that, though. Because we have this concept in TWF that says, okay, if I make a mistake, and I said this in the last video, I hate making mistakes, but the thing I hate worse than that is making the same mistake twice. And so for me, I adopted this mindset that, okay, I'm making a mistake, I'm paying a price, now I have to make that mistake my slave for the rest of my life. And the only way for that mistake to now become my slave is I have to extract the maximum educational value out of that mistake that I possibly can. I cannot, and the second that I don't own it, and I say, well, it was something else, or this, or whatever. Now, I'm not talking about identifying facts and what happened and where and this kind of thing. A lot of people confuse that. Because if you don't identify facts, I'm talking about math. Numbers don't lie, okay? And of course, there's decisions that are made and influences and whatever in some situation. And then there's the randomness of life, okay? But you do your best to try to identify what happened. But at the end of the day, you say, okay, I was responsible how and where? And if this happened again, what would I do differently, right? And the only way we get to do that, one, is if we're totally owning it, and two, we're extracting the maximum educational value out of it. And for me personally, I said, okay, when somebody else makes the mistake, I have no idea what they actually did. All I know is what they tell me. And what I know about marketing and sales and human nature, what I know about that is that there's going to be spin involved. If someone's managing your money for you and you give them $100,000 and they make a mistake, they're going to come and tell you, well, this happened and that happened, and I'm sorry, there's no longer 100,000, there's only 50,000 now. And you're going to go, wait a second, I don't understand that. And they're going to say, well, I know, but da-da-da-da-da, and they're going to give you some explanation. And at the end of the day, you are going to have to accept what they tell you, and you will have absolutely zero ability to actually validate what they are telling you. Because you weren't involved in the transaction, you don't know what decisions were made, you don't know how they were made, you don't actually see the source of the transaction. So if you don't have that, if you don't have that, how can you actually learn from that mistake? How do you learn? How do you learn when somebody else is just giving you spin? So for me, I was like, okay, this is going to suck, but I need to learn this stuff. I need to start small, grow big. And that's what TWF was birthed out of. TWF is a master wealth building strategy. It is a money management system and an investing system. It is a life management and thinking system. It is a human nature understanding system. And it was birthed out of not just investing and money experience and business experience. It was birthed out of sales and marketing experience. So whether you have it printed out, if you go sit down, you're gonna go get your $10,000 small business loan to the big mega banks that have gotten $1 trillion bailouts, but now they won't give these loans out. That's the system that we're in right now, right? You want to be dependent on that. So you're going to go and you're going to sit down and they're going to say, okay, what's your balance sheet? What's your financial statements, right? So you might say, well, I don't have it. Yes, you do. You may not have it on paper. You may not understand what it is, but your life today, your entire life, you have a balance sheet. You have assets and you have liabilities, number one. Number two, the most important thing on your balance sheet from the day you were born to the day into eternity is you. You are the most important factor on your balance sheet. If you want to create wealth, you need to start understanding the relationship between assets and liabilities, right? The key to wealth is to produce more than you consume. Very simple. So when you are a consumer, if you're a consumer, what's your impact on your balance sheet? If you're a consumer. If you are a producer, I know the writing's backwards for those of you that just joined. So if you are in a global, a debt-based global economy, and as I've said for years and years and years, you've been programmed since birth for overconsumption, debt. You've been baptized into the religion of consumerism, debt, and overconsumption. Debt slavery. What does that mean? It means that chances are, if you are hurting right now financially as a result of this economic environment where just 6 weeks ago we had the longest running bull market in history and the strongest economy in 50 years. And if just 6 weeks from that, this is the tough medicine. This is the tough medicine. If you are hurting today financially, it's because you have been majority of your life in this system as a debt slave. You consume more than you produce, so you are mostly a liability on your balance sheet. Now, no accountant or CPA in the world will explain this to you this way. Not a single one of them. If you go in and you get your financial statements done and you sit down and you have a meeting with them, you will, and they print up a balance sheet, you will never once ever see your name on that piece of financial information that your financial expert tells you. And it is the most important thing on your balance sheet. It will never show up when they print it out. But it is the starting point and it is the most important point. So you're either creating value on your balance sheet through production, or you're subtracting value through consumption. So one of the first keys to creating wealth, now I'm not even getting into the technical stuff of assets and liabilities. We have the money quadrant report where we talk about that, right? We have your three types: consumer, depreciating assets, appreciating assets, and cash flow assets. Not all balance sheets are created equal. This is why when your financial, quote, experts and these idiots that make you think that the net worth number is an important number, the net worth number isn't important. I mean, it's better to have a positive net worth than a negative, but you can have a positive net worth and have just a crappy balance sheet. Why do you think some companies right now are thriving in this economic environment? Now, part of it is depending on the business model and the service and the sector that they're in. Technology companies are doing well because of the work from home and all that sort of thing. But that's not the only reason. Not all balance sheets are created equal. Not all assets are created equal. And if we go back to that scenario and the net worth number, you could have $1 million net worth, and your balance sheet just sucks. One of the things that we talk about in TWF is restructuring the balance sheet for cash flow. Restructuring the balance sheet for cash flow. That sounds like a very technical statement. We show you exactly how to do that in TWF. We have the calculators in the Wealth Builder app. And the True Wealth Formula implementation program goes step by step. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way through it. You work through it and you identify what's on this balance sheet, because here's the key point. Some of the stuff, number one, there's you. There's you, okay? This gets into our earned income, the money we work for, right? But the key to wealth is to get our money working for us instead of us working for our money. So it starts with us. We're part of our balance sheet, right? I have earning power, but I don't just have earning power. I'm a consumer. I've been told my whole life and programmed by my authority figures, be a good little consumer now. So, if I'm living above my means and I'm over consuming, we have formulas and ratios. One of the keys is to live off of 70% of your income. A lot of people say, "Oh, I can't do that. I'm having a hard time." Well, no, you're going to have to do that right now. With what's coming with this whole thing, you're going to have to do it. You're going to be living off of less than 70 of what you were living off of 6 weeks ago that you said you couldn't do. You want to know why? Same point that I've made for years and years and years. The mind, your mind, my mind, will always expand or contract to our environment. It will hurt a little bit, but we will expand or contract. So if I say today, I come to you and I say, "Hey, how much do you make a year?" X. Okay, we're going to double it. Yay! I'll be so happy, And in 90 days, you will still be complaining about the very same problems that you were 90 days before. You'll get a newer car, you'll do some of this, you'll do some of that, but within 90 days, you'll have the same complaints. You'll have the same habits. You'll have the same financial problems. This has already been proven. Statistic after statistic, study after study after study after study. The majority of Americans right now can't survive past one paycheck. They're one paycheck away from not being able to pay their bills. This is not a corona crisis problem or economic problem. This is a programming problem. This is a system and methodology problem. And you say, "Well, that's not me, Hans. I'm pretty good. I'm doing fine right now." Cool. What's your balance sheet look like? What kind of assets you got on your balance sheet? How productive are those assets? What kind of liabilities are on the balance sheet? Because, there's a lot of yahoos right now. Some of them are really, really popular. Big seminars and stuff like that, talking a bunch of stuff. Real estate market, man. And they're pumping. And then while the market's booming, they're selling everybody on leverage. Use leverage. Go into debt. Use debt. Use debt. Use debt. Use debt. And every time the market changes, because these things cycle, I've seen it happen, every single time these guys go bankrupt. And their clients go bankrupt. Because they were all buying into the story on the way up. Everybody's a genius in a rising market. The question isn't how good do you do while the market's rising. The question is how do you do when it crashes? The question is how sustainable is your balance sheet? How resilient is the balance sheet? What kind of chaos and mayhem can the balance sheet handle? So we spend our entire lives being good little consumers. And we consume. And we consume and we consume. And we consume and we consume and we upgrade and we upgrade. We upgrade our life. We get an increase in our paycheck. We make more money. Boom, we increase our lifestyle. We get a bonus check. Boom, we increase our lifestyle. We start a business. It starts to do well. Boom, we increase our lifestyle. Why? Because we sit down with some guy called a financial planner, right? And or a CPA or somebody, they go, "Well, if you do this, but you should buy this because then you get a tax deduction." Okay, cool. I'll spend the money. I will consume. And what we're doing is we're building balance sheets full of consumption, consumer, and dumbass assets, depreciating assets. And every once in a while, if you're a good gambler, you're going to pick up an appreciating asset, something that you think is going to go up in value over time. The investment advice you get, buy low, sell high. right? Meanwhile, what the wealthy do is they focus on building a fortress balance sheet made mostly, or at least in core, of cash flow assets. These are very specific types of assets. Can you never lose money in it? Do they never go down in value? Of course not. But they have a lower risk profile. They're more resilient. They help you make better financial decisions. They act as a ballast to your mental emotions. They give you sustainability. These are the kind of assets that build intergenerational wealth. These are the kind of assets that do survive. Not that they don't come under threat. They're under threat right now. They're going to be hit hard. And there's going to be, watch my last video, there's going to be crazy deals that happen through this whole experience that's going on right now. Awesome deals, right? But these are the kind of assets you want to focus on. Can you make money speculating? Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Right? So what does your balance sheet look like? What kind of assets is it stuffed with? Right? Because if your balance sheet, if you go back to this scenario I was talking about earlier, oh, I make a good living, I put in my 401k and I do this and I do that, and you just told me that most of your balance sheet is liabilities. You are the only asset on your balance sheet, which means all of your income is money you work for, not money that's working for you. You put some money in a 401k, which is an appreciating asset, which is speculation, because you're dependent on the buying low and selling high, and dependent on that market continuing to rise, which works out great until it doesn't. It works out great until you're hitting retirement age in the year 2000 and the dot-com bubble bursts. It works out great until you're heading into, quote, retirement age, until the year 2008 and the global financial crisis hits. It works out great until 2020, when that slow-moving train wreck that was pretty damn obvious for the whole world because we got to watch it unfold in China. The second largest economy in the world shut down, grinded to a halt, quarantined. They quarantined over 500 million people. That stuff started back in December. There was no surprise about this thing that's going on right now. Slow-moving train wreck called the Corona crisis. If you're headed into retirement during the Corona crisis, oh, but Hans, the markets are on the way back up. We'll see. We'll see. I hope you're right. Every market booms and busts. There are patterns that repeat with booming markets and busting markets. Right? So, you are the most important aspect to your balance sheet. You always will be. And to illustrate this point, finally, okay? Now, hopefully I'm doing an okay job explaining this, right? What are consumer assets? They really don't ever show. If you have food in your food pantry, that's a consumer asset until it's gone. A C asset or a consumer asset. Now in our Wealth Builder app, we have a whole wealth dashboard in there. You can start adding your accounts, and it does it according to this methodology. And if you get into our implementation program at truewealthformula.com/special offer, you'll learn this system. You'll work through this system. I had a conversation the other day, and I've had people on these videos. Dude, why? There's a crisis right now, and you're selling something. You're damn straight I'm selling something. And if you have a small business, if you're a small business owner and you're not selling right now, if you are the small business, you have to sell right now. You have to present. You have to pitch. You have to pivot. You have to reposition your product, your offering, your something. You have to think, okay, what is the need that's out there right now? In our case with TWF, it just landed. The cards just landed the way they did. The book was already scheduled to roll. We were already doing stuff. And for me personally, because of TWF, and the rules that we use, the investing rules and the money management rules, when this crisis hit, it was a big windfall. And for other clients that we had, they were able to avoid it and step aside. That kill shot came, and they moved to the side, and the bullet grazed, and they got a little flesh wound. And they're like, "Cool, I'm good for the next battle." Now, they were able to step aside and not have a catastrophic loss, and that's the key. So True Wealth Formula Doc, so you're damn straight. We're going to be pitching our solution. You better believe it, man. Let me tell you how many clients I've had reach out and say, "Oh my God, if it wasn't for TWF, we would have total wipeout right now." I had clients back in 2008, guys that I warned, through our seminars and stuff that we were doing. And this is because it wasn't because, there were some warnings. I was giving some presentations and doing some trainings and putting some warnings out. This was early 2008, and one of them, when that whole thing hit, when the global financial crisis hit, the guy came back afterwards and goes, "Man, I because of what you were saying and because of True Wealth Formula, I basically moved some money out of something, and that thing that money was in just went bankrupt. It was freaking Bear Stearns. And it was $8 million. So we've seen a few of these market cycles. Doesn't mean we don't have a lot to learn. There's no end to the learning, So consumer assets. Now the worst part is there's a liability. So if you have an asset that's a consumer and then you have an offset, you have a liability, i.e. a credit card payment. So you bought some crap, something you don't know, but you still have, you have a credit card, you have credit card debt now. You have credit card debt and you get that statement and you're making that minimum payment and you can't even remember what the hell you bought. Nothing there anymore. Okay, the next one would be depreciating assets. And what's a depreciating asset? It's something that goes down in value. Prime example, you buy a new car. You go to upgrade because you got a raise at work. You got a bonus. Because you're making more money, you have no money management system, you have no wealth building strategy, and you've been programmed to be a debt slave, to overconsume, overspend, and use debt to finance your lifestyle. So you get a raise or you get a bonus or you have a good year and you say, "God, I deserve..." You got that dream car, so you're going to go to the dealership and, I'm just going to go look. And you sit in it and you do the test drive, and before you know it, you're in a conversation, right? And the dealer, which is really a finance company, right? The guy you're talking to comes back with, "Hey, look, we got this deal going on right now. Not only can we finance you for this, but we're going to give you cash back, which means you can walk away with money in your pocket and your payment will only be X." And you go, "Oh my God, man. That's too good to be refused. I just feel so good in that vehicle. I feel so good while I'm in it. I deserve it." So you get a loan. Okay. You get some kind of a loan, which is what? A liability. Liabilities are debts. So you get a loan to buy. So consumer assets are consumed. They're gone. They're vapor. They're gone. They disappear. You don't know where they're at. You went on a vacation, you used a credit card to fund that vacation, you had a great time, you had a great experience, you got some great photos you got to put on your Facebook and do your thing. And when it's done, you still have the credit card debt. Christmas shopping. You went and freaking did your Christmas shopping, and then when it was all said and done, you got a credit card statement and you can barely remember what the hell it was. It's gone. Vapor in the wind. Okay? That's our global debt-based economy. That's our system. So consumption assets are gone. Right? They're eaten up. Okay? Depreciating assets go down in value. So back to the car story. You go in, you got that raise, whatever. Now you're going, you're going to pick up, you get a new car, and you get a, boy, I feel good. Boom. You drive that thing off the lot, it gets a 20 to 30% depreciation hit in the value instantly the moment you drive it off the lot. But you still have this loan. So you're adding liabilities to your balance sheet, and you're using liabilities to fund depreciating assets. We call this dumbass debt. You will never build wealth, ever. I don't care how much money you make, right? If you're using capital to fund dumbass liabilities, depreciating assets, okay? And why do we do this? And then the next one, appreciating. Oh man, I'm going to buy some land. That land never goes down. That land's going to go up in value. So because I think I'm going to buy it low and sell it high. Or I'm going to buy this stock, right? I'm going to buy this stock. It keeps going up. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to make some money on the way up, right? And if we're really stupid, we take out debt to fund that. And your quote, real estate gurus, okay, your pitch gurus, who are bestsellers and all this kind of stuff, are jacking you and telling you just use debt to buy these, quote, flips, these houses that you're going to flip. And meanwhile, the market cycle turns and it changes, and one domino falls, the next one falls, and then they start just falling. Why? Liquidity squeeze, right? Because the balance sheet, no understanding of how to keep this structured properly so that it is resilient, right? When I sent the email out for this today, I said in the subject line, how to build a fortress balance sheet. What is a fortress? Think about a freaking castle with the moat. That castle's under attack. You got a strong moat. You got strong walls. Your warriors are there, ready to do business. Protect that freaking city. Protect that thing. Right now, with this situation that's going on, we're in a crisis. We're much closer to the front of it than we are at the end of it. There is never once, ever in entire human history not been seasons of chaos and crisis. What it's never not happened. The whole point of good times, the whole point of prospering during good times, during a season of plenty, is to hold some back in the storehouse for the coming season of famine. And yet we have a global economy that is so fragile that it depends on your debt slavery, your homage to this system. Why? Because they understand this more than we do. We don't understand our own human nature. our human nature has an insatiable desire and need for more, more, more. And we love comfort. And back to the story I said earlier, if I came and you had an income of $50,000 a year, and I came and I said, we're going to double it to $100,000, you get so excited, those endorphins, and oh man, you just feel so good. But 90 days later, you'd upgrade your house, your lifestyle, whatever. But 90 days later, you'd have the exact same complaints, the same problems, the same everything. And if on the flip side, I came and I said, hey, I'm really sorry, but we're going to cut your income in half. You would freak out, you would panic, it would be chaos. Emotionally, you would be like in fear. How am I going to make this work? There's no way I could do this. But in 90 days, unequivocally, you will figure out a way. You will survive. You will not die. You will not just stop living and drop dead and die. And despite that pain and that chaos, in 90 days, you would not have more problems. You would have the same problems. You would have the same complaints. Why? The mind will always expand and contract to our environment. So the elites know this better than we do. So we're hooked on a drug called debt and consumption. We don't understand the basics of a balance sheet. And if you are your most important asset or aspect on your balance sheet, and you don't have this basic understanding, this basic knowledge, and you don't realize, and you don't have a system, you don't have the rules, and you don't have a methodology to make money decisions, right? You don't have that at all, and you're dependent all the time for someone else to tell you what to do with your money, right? What kind of decisions are you going to make throughout the course of your life? During one of the most prosperous times in history. You have people right now that are suffering, and they still have freaking cable TV, they still have their Netflix, they still have food in their refrigerator, they have running water, they have sewer systems, they have electricity. Come on. Absolutely suffering today is living better than kings and queens throughout history in modern luxuries. So, if I don't buy into this message, I don't get this, I get to be the victim, I get to be a child. If I don't learn this stuff, now this will transfer from, if you have a 5-year-old, you can sit down with a 5-year-old when they do the dishes or they get their allowance, and you can have a conversation, say, look, you can, maybe 5 is too young, but 10, let's say 10. But you can start to talk about these concepts. You can either be a consumer or a producer. In life, you're going to have a balance sheet, and your balance sheet's going to have assets or liabilities. And here's the whole key. The whole key is the key to wealth is to get your money working for you instead of you working for your money. And the key to do that is I want assets on my balance sheet that help me to get richer and richer every month, every quarter, every year. Assets that build cash flow and income streams. Yes, I can have some speculations that rise during a boom market, but I sure as hell better have some kind of a system and a formula to be able to recognize when that market environment is changing so that I can step aside or I can exit out of that speculative asset. That will transfer from a 10-year-old all the way up to a Fortune 500 company. Because if you go through the financial statements of Apple, Microsoft, any of these companies, these publicly traded companies, and you understand these concepts, you will be able to go through a balance sheet and you will be able to identify what type of assets are on that balance sheet, how productive are they, which are the assets on the balance sheet that are actually contributing to the cash flows and the revenues of that business, versus the ones that are actually a drag and a drain. If you learn this for yourself to change your financial future, it will transfer from the very, very low, beginning position all the way up to the highest levels of corporate finance. The whole concept of restructuring the balance sheet for cash flow. If you have crappy assets on the balance sheet, that can be restructured. It doesn't matter what your freaking net worth number is. That's not the number that matters. You want to know? Here's one for you. Okay? Consumers focus on net worth. Because what? You've been trained to be a consumer, and you're giving bull crap financial information from these people on radio and TV and all these other places. Modern financial planning coupled with modern portfolio theory is a complete freaking racket. Okay? You're not going to find a high-level corporate manager. It's not net worth. That's not the number that counts. What counts is ROA. Return on assets. Return on assets. So let me make this final point. I come to you today during this corona crisis and I say, hey man, it's your lucky day, Joe or Joan or Bob or Marcus. What's up, Marcus? And I say, here's $100,000. $100,000. If you don't understand this stuff and you don't have a system, I can tell you exactly what you will do because the statistics and the studies all prove it. People that win the lottery go broke within a couple years. The average Westerner has made $2 million in their lifetime. And that's an old stat now. $2 million in your lifetime on an average basis. Okay? So if I come with $100,000 and say, here you go, here's $100,000. The answer to your money problems, the reason for your money problems has nothing to do with coronavirus, and the answer to your money problems has nothing to do with more money. It has everything to do with this right here, with the you portion. Because somebody hands you $100,000 right now, and you don't understand this stuff, and you don't have a system like TWF, and you're going to go sit down, and you're going to go talk to a CPA or somebody like that. You know what they're going to tell you to do? They're going to say, well, if you buy this, you get a tax deduction or whatever. They're not going to have a conversation like this about building wealth on the balance sheet. So if you don't have this knowledge and information and you don't have the system, that $100,000, and what do you want to do? $1 million? Doesn't matter what it is. You'll be excited, but you're going to go upgrade. You're gonna upgrade your car. You're gonna go shopping. You're gonna take a nice little trip. You might pay off a little bit of debt because that's a little bit painful and you're tired of making those payments. But you're gonna go right back into debt because it just takes 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 months to forget, and then you see that nice new shiny object. Because why? The mind has been programmed to be a debt slave. A slave is going to do what they have been programmed to do. It doesn't matter what your conscious brain, you can read a book, you can look at that, it doesn't matter. Because the program, the operating system, has an agenda. So, all it takes is for us to forget about this video that you're watching right now, right? And if a few months go by, I'll think, and how am I feeling? Oh, I feel like I want to go do this now. So then, this is why people get out of debt, they go right back into debt. Get out of debt, go right back into debt. Get out of debt, go right back into debt. No understanding of the balance sheet. No system, no methodology. So, if I give you $1 million, man, you know what you're going to do? You're going to upgrade your lifestyle. Give you $100,000, you're going to upgrade your lifestyle. Give you $10,000, you're going to upgrade your lifestyle. Give you $1,200 from the government. What do you think people are doing with their $1,200? Well, you don't understand corona crisis, man. Coronavirus, this economic shutdown. It's not the real war you're fighting, guys. The real war you're fighting is this. What you should do, if you want to know what to do at the 1200, go to so if you want to get in the implementation program, and if you're watching this video at this point and you're not at truewealthformula.com/special offer, you got to get there and you need to sign up, man. It's like freaking 83 cents a day. You can't buy you can't even buy a really terrible cup of coffee at your local gas station for 83 cents. It's a subscription. We do it through an annual subscription. We're actually tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central, we're going to be doing a live Q&A for people for our members that are in that program. And I do that once a month to just basically answer questions and basically tie it back into the program so that, and it's implementation. It's not just head knowledge, it's actually doing. So you learn and do, learn and do, learn and do, learn and do. There's assignments, there's PDFs, you print the PDFs, the worksheets out, you do that. If you want more information on this, or back to the example of the $1,200, what do I do with that $1,200? What are your priorities? What do you want to do? You know, what's important? You know, if you're fine with this cycle and you're okay with it, then cool, do what you want. If you're sick and tired of it and you're like, hey, I'm done being the victim. I'm done being a dumbass. I'm done being the freaking child in this system. I'm done being a global debt slave, building this pyramid of debt, right? And you want to extract yourself from that, then you take that $1,200. The very first thing you should do, you should be investing in you, in yourself. And you should be signing up as a True Wealth Formula Implementation Program member. That would be smart, to use money that the government is sending and take that and make an investment into yourself so that you can learn this stuff. I promise I'll try to make it as fun as possible. Despite my crazy intensity and my funky beard. I'll try to make this financial stuff as fun as possible, okay? So you take that and you sign up for TWF implementation program at truewealthformula.com/special offer. You can learn a little bit more about this concept in a very different way. We have our at truewealthformula.com. If you opt in, you give your name and email, you can get our money quadrant report, and it will explain some of this a little further. But in our implementation program, we have a whole module in there. So one of the modules is called the money quadrant, and it goes into this in detail and it explains it. And then there's, like I said, there's assignments and everything like that. And I think that's plenty for today. I hope you had fun. I hope we made this really boring financial topic sort of interesting. I hope it answered some questions that you might have. Please share this video. Even though I get crazy and drop some crazy words in here, share it. Get the word out. We need to extract people from the debt matrix, guys. We need to build an army of people that are done being the victims and done being at the tail end of this stuff. And no, if you're getting your $1 trillion and your $1 billion bailouts from the government, and that's a good deal for you, then hey, you know, every man to himself, or woman for herself, or whatever. But if you're like me and you're a small business entrepreneur, you're probably not getting anything. You know, you might have to go get your loan or do whatever. But if what I've said here today or any of the other videos resonates with you, and you are in that place in your life where you're thinking, hey, you know what? It's time. It's time to get this stuff figured out. It's time to adopt a system that works to take myself to the next level. I'm tired of being a liability on my balance sheet. I want to learn how to be an asset on my balance sheet. I want to be not just an asset on my balance sheet, but to my family and my collective, what we call the collective family balance sheet. You know, today we're talking about financial terms. It's not just finances. You know, it's internal. It's the heart. It's you know, other things that we all fail at all the time. But we use the money part because money's a real challenge. You know, money is a mirror of our inner psychology. It's a fear gauge. So we either learn how to master money, or we continue to be its slave. There is no in between. And so I appreciate you guys. Hope you had fun here today. Hans Johnson, TrueWealthFormula.com. The book comes out on Tuesday, April 21st. I am thinking about maybe doing some more videos when it launches. I would say if you want to pre-order, you can. It's going to go on a discount on that Tuesday. It's going to be at a ridiculous discount. And our goal is just to get it out to as many people. Obviously, we want to try to get some bestseller stuff on Amazon. To be honest, things are so crazy right now. It was kind of crazy to even just go forward with releasing it, but I just said, hey, screw it. Let's just get it out there, and let's just trust and let the dust settle and whatever. Let's have fun with it. Let's get this message into people's hands. So I think of you for being interested, in these concepts and these ideas, and spreading the word, especially when that book comes out. We're going to need a lot of help with that. Definitely going to need a lot of help with that. So anyway, I hope you guys had fun today. TrueWealthFormula.com /